Hey guys, welcome to part 11 of the Metasploit Mega Primer. In this video, we will look at stealing data as a phase of post-exploitation. Right, so this is step 4 of the post-exploitation, in which we are going to look at how to go ahead and collect data from the victim and run programs remotely on the victim. So let's go to our setup. I've already gone ahead and pawned the Windows 2003 enterprise server using a browser-based vulnerability, and we already have a Metasploit session. Let me connect to that session. Right, so let's look at who we are. Now, let's go ahead and run a quick privilege escalation attack. And then let's run the get system command. Awesome. So from here, the first thing we will do is actually run a Metasploit script called file collector. Now, file collector, what we can do is we can give it a directory. Then we mention the directory from where we want to start the search, and we go on and give it some description of the kind of files we want to actually search for. In this case, all text files, and then we run the program. So if you notice, all the text files on the system on C drive have been thrown onto the screen. Now what we can do is we can actually go ahead and add more of the kind of files we want. So if you notice now, after the text files, the PST files are also searched for. Right, interestingly, PST files, as you know, are basically where all the emails are stored. Right, so one of the other things we can do is actually go ahead, and if you want to download these files, the first thing you need to do is go ahead and save these files locally. Right, go ahead and save the entire path of these files in a local file first. So we'll go ahead and use the -L option and say files_found. Right, now if we go to another terminal, open up a new terminal, quickly check up the command. Sorry, my mistake. It's the -O option, right? Output file to save the full path of files found. Files_found. We run this. Now we should have a file called files_found in the local directory, and this contains the entire list of files which we found right now from our search. Right, so let's say if you want to download all of these files locally, let's create a directory called stolen_files, and then let's go back to the file collector and give it these options. So now what we have to do is, first of all, give it the input file name. This is the file we just now created, containing all the list of files we want to download. And then we give it the location where to download these files to. Right, this is the directory. Let's run this, and now if you notice, all the files which we found in the previous iteration are now being downloaded into this directory called stolen_files. Awesome, right? So this is the way by which you can search for files on the victim system and then download them by first creating a list, Alternately, you can use the download command, which we've already seen in previous videos, to download specific files. Now, the file underscore collector is very good if you actually want to download a specific kind of files, search for it all across the different drives, and then download all of them together, right? Now, there are a lot of interesting files available, one of which, as we've discussed, is the PST file, which is where all the email by Outlook Express gets stored, right? Now, let's look at something more interesting. Now, we know that all users run browsers like Firefox, IE, and they also go ahead and save those passwords, which they use for different sites at times. So whenever you go to a new site and type in a username and password, Firefox, for example, prompts whether you want to save the password. And if you do, the password is saved. So now the logical question is, where are these saved on the remote system? Let me just show you by first going to the victim machine. So I'm logged in as administrator. So I will go to C drive, document setting, admin, application data, Mozilla, Firefox, into profiles. And if you notice, there is some random looking sequence in front, .default. Now inside this, depending on the version of Firefox, for example, this is the 3.6 version, all the passwords are stored on sign-ons.sqlite. Now, depending on whether you set a master password or not, these might be stored using one of the existing keys or using the master password which you are actually setting, right? Now, the important files here are key3.db as well as cert8.db, and these are very interesting because, and along with that, secmode.db. Now, we'll cover some of these files in later videos. But basically, if you have all of these files, specifically sign-ons.sqlite, key3.db, it is possible to go ahead and actually decrypt the passwords, right? If a master password has not been set. Now, if a master password has been set, well, there are tools available which we will cover in later videos, using which you can try to brute force the master password itself, right? Anyway, coming back here, so how do we go ahead and download these files? Well, there's an awesome script called enum_firefox running, which will download these files. However, there is one catch. If you notice, it just said Firefox was found and exited. Well, the reason is we are running a system, and enum_firefox only gets the config files for the specific user we are logged on as. It does not get it for all users on the system. So this is one limitation. So how do we go ahead and first become the other user, which is the admin? Well, very simply, we can do a quick PS, locate a process which is running as the administrator explorer, and then go ahead and use the steal token command along with the process ID. Oops. Quickly check the different parameters. Well, it looks like everything does seem right. Okay, interestingly, we've already been escalated as the admin, right? Even though previously we were the system authority, which means the command did work, but for some reason it did give an error as well. Anyway, this is the good news, is that now we are the administrator. Now let's go ahead and run enum_firefox. So now if you notice that all the data for the administrator account, which is stored in the Firefox profile, is being downloaded. This includes the cert8.db, key3.db, sign-ons.sqlite, right? Everything prefixed with the username. Also, other interesting things such as the cookies, the bookmarks, and all of that are also being downloaded. Now let's go into this directory and have a look at what are the different things available here. You copy this, go to a new terminal. It's a terminal which hung. and just go ahead and change directory into that. Okay, a lot of interesting data is available here. What we are interested in is basically these files, right? Key3, cert8, cookies.db, etc. So one of the things you can do is, if you want to go ahead and look at the cookies currently, you can just run the SQLite command and give it the file name, and then you can view the different tables. So then we can even do a select star from moz_cookies, right? So if, let's say, the user is logged into a session or probably has remember me enabled, then this might give you the cookie for various sites like google.com, gmail.com, etc. So this is one of the ways by which you can steal a cookie and impersonate a user, right? This is, I guess, web application security 101. Anyway, so there are a lot of these SQLite files which you can actually have a look at. So how do we go ahead and extract the password for the stored passwords on the remote system? Well, one of the things you can do is actually go ahead and use this with your current Firefox. So how do we do that? Well, Backtrack has its own version of Firefox which is running, but there is one catch to it. Let's shift to the Firefox directory. Different profiles where they're stored. Right? So this is the place where this is the exact same directory. If you compare it with the one on Windows, you would actually see that the same profile directory where we are. There is one catch though. Different versions of Firefox use different schemas. So the one running on the Windows server is actually running Firefox 3.6. Now the one here is, I think, running the 3.0 version, because of which here sign-ons.txt is the file instead of sign-ons.sqlite. Now one easy way, let's say if you had a compatible version of Firefox, would be to copy the files you downloaded from the victim into these directories and then view the password using the edit preferences and probably the security tab and show passwords, etc. Right? Now I cannot show you this demo simply because I have a version mismatch, but I'll show you an interesting way how to find out the passwords on the victim system without having to download all this data locally. For that I will use a program called FirePassword. Right? Oops. Now FirePassword is a simple exe file. What we will do is we'll go back to our Metasploit terminal, look at where we are currently, and also look at forget some of the commands to actually check out the local working directory, right? That is basically get lwd and lcd is to change it. So right now we are in root. Let's change this to /root/ FirePassword bin, right? And what we will do is we'll go ahead and upload this file on the remote system, which is firepassword.exe. Awesome. If you do an ls on the remote system, we will notice that firepassword.exe is there. Now all we have to do is run this program. So one of the easy ways, get into a shell, just quickly verify who we are. We are the administrator, which is great, and then run firepassword.exe remotely. So if you notice, this has immediately shown us the list of hosts, the email and the different password, or the login and the password, depending upon what the form fields were. And it has stored all of this and shown it with us, right? So this is a very simple way using which you can actually view all the passwords on the remote system. Now what you can actually do is go ahead, use the whole steal token philosophy to shift and change between different users on the system, right? If you remember the incognito basics, we can go ahead and figure out what other tokens we have access to and probably become system, get more tokens, and once we are going ahead and impersonating that user, we can run the fire password command to actually view the stored username and password for different sites in Firefox. Now what are the advantages? Well, a lot of times users will store intranet username and passwords for the local webmail, for the local portals within Firefox. Now using this as a starting point, you can try to break into those machines as well, or break into those web applications, right? So this is where Firefox itself provides a wealth of information about the different kind of sites the user uses and the kind of privileges he might have on that site, right? Now you can run many other scripts. The enum scripts also include things like enum putty. I don't have putty on the remote system, right? But if you did, it could even go ahead and download the keys, various other configuration parameters. If you have VMware, it could do something similar, and tons of other things. So going back to our presentation, we've looked at how to download different files remotely, and we've also looked at how to upload programs and run them on the victim computer. The example we took right now was firepassword.exe, right? Well, so that's all for part 11. I think stealing data is quite simple. The only thing I wanted to touch upon is basically downloading the browser configurations like usernames and passwords. As always, I'd request you to please leave comments behind. Thanks a lot for all the great comments. I really appreciate them, and this is what gets me going and make more videos. As you notice, I have a bad cold, but today being a holiday, I think I really want to utilize it to make more videos. Okay guys, have a great time, keep commenting and keep visiting us. Thank you.